Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Spindle TV Exclusive. Had a little bit of a computer glitch a second ago, so I had to back out of what I was doing and restart. So, hey, JR is joining me online tonight. How's everybody doing in the chats? I can see quite a few of you. We've got Gene Kilmer, Brooks Martin, Dave Heineke, Bernie Bouchard. How you doing, Bernie? Roger S., Ron Bishop, Doug Fushi. How y'all doing tonight? JR, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Good. I tell you, it's been over here on my end. It's been nonstop all week. The boys over at Digital Woodcarver, everybody they parted ways and left town to go pick up things and deliver things and do things. So I'm kind of holding down the fort in the house, and it's been a busy couple of days, but we're getting it all balanced out. Everybody's on the road doing their deliveries and stuff. We had quite a few machines going out and everything, but other than that, it's been good for me as well too. Glad to see you joining me, and everyone else in the chat and everything. Now, tonight we are going to do a couple of things. Number one, we're working on that billiard sign. If you were with us 2 weeks ago, we had a billiard sign, like a pool table sign, wall sign, that we had a bunch of vectors that we were building into components and clip art and stuff. Or not components, but we were building into components and making a composite model. We didn't get quite all the way through that. We had a few little models still to build and everything on it. And we're going to get through that. But we're also going to take a look at, for those that can't build models, we're going to look at what we need to do with these vectors to make them V-carvable. As far as if I wanted that same similar kind of look to the best of my ability, what would I need to do to the vectors to change that so I can do kind of like a raised V-carve? Not a whole lot needs to be done and everything in that fashion and all, but some stuff does need to be done, right? So we're going to take a look at that. So tonight's class is going to be chock full of information, packed full of information. Stick with it because we're going to be talking V-carve, composites, models, nodes, node editing, and all kind of fun stuff. So put on your thinking caps, drink some coffee, which I don't have any, and we'll go from there. All right, let's get this show on the road. Let me get switched over to the right camera. And let's throw me down in the corner. Busy stuff. All right, now for those of you that are, minimize that. For those of you that did not see the community page or didn't see the Facebook post or anything with the link to the files, it's the link from 2 weeks ago, but I'm going to post them in the chat once again. Let me grab those bad boys. I say that, but let me get over there. When I have the link all good and ready and everything, Facebook or YouTube shortens it and puts ... and so it's not, I can't use it a second time. So hold on one second and get All right, copy. There we go. Copy live stream, paste, enter. Okay, so that link is in the chat if you did not get it couple weeks ago, but it's the same billiard sign where you're just moving forward on it. All right, let's go ahead and keep our streaming down to a minimum. Beautiful. All right, JR. Well, I'm going to go large. I'm going to kick you out for a little bit. You're not going anywhere. You're in the background, but we'll get that worked out one day. I keep saying that, but we will. But I'll see you in just a few moments. Here we go. All right. Let's bear with me a second. I'm rolling over. I feel like I was getting shot. I'm rolling over bubble wrap that got under my chair tire for some reason. I was unpacking some boxes today. All right, so let's take a look at our 3D view here. And let's turn the vectors off just for a moment to kind of engage to where we were. Now, with this, we are going to be completing this. But if you remember when we had this class and everything, we had this one flourish right here on the side that we ended up having to, tilt. And in order to get the bottom part of that flourish to look like it was sitting on top of this lower rack 'em up kind of pedestal, if you will. And because of the tilt, just to get that little area above that pedestal, it made the far end of that flourish, it made it way too high and everything. And so where we ended off, as we were saying our goodbyes and all, I talked about that we were going to go in, trim up those vectors and separate them so we can create two separate components that kind of blend together at their ends. And that's what we're going to do right now. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to fix that, and then we're going to move on and do the final little touch-ups, and then we're going to start working on the VCarve. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here real quick. Let's answer some important questions. Lainey, how's the kitten doing? The kitten is doing fine. Now, no joke. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but let me see here. Hold on a second. Let's go back to here, and let's go to full for just a moment. I don't know that shows up, but the kitten is a fighter, right? So that's at night. He's a fighter. He wants to play, and his playing is a little rough. He's rough, I tell you. But other than that, he's amazing. He's great. He listens. He comes. I've had him outside. He'll play around me, but then he runs up my leg because he's like not used to it, the big bad world. But just he's having fun. But he has a lot of energy, and he's got a stuffed animal that I gave him that he just annihilates. That's where we're at. That's with the kids. So thanks for asking. That was very nice of you. But he's a fighter. Yeah, he's a fighter and a biter. But it's all playful. He doesn't mean to be that rough. And, yeah, I could see if he had a couple little brothers and sisters, like in his little litter or something, they'd be beating them up. Okay, so here's what we have to do. We have this vector right here in this component that we need to separate. And we need to kind of recreate this other half here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find this model in my component tree. So when I select on this model here and I go into the component tree, it's the one that's highlighted. So that identifies that pretty quickly for me. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to turn that model component off. So basically, essentially, it's still there. But I didn't delete it or anything. I just turned it off because I'm going to redo the vectors, and then we'll recreate the model, the component. So first things first, in this bottom corner here, what I'd like to do is, since this flourish is the one that needs to be kind of tilted and things, I'm going to go right into our design tools to node editing. And right at this point, I'm going to cut the vector. And here as well. And then I'm going to take this vector and join and close it kind of with a smooth curve. And this curve, let's get out of that for a second. This curve is going to kind of come down. And let me see if I can turn on my mouse so you can see where my mouse is when I'm moving around pretty fast and furious here. All right, so on the screen, there we go. Here we are right there. When this joined with a smooth loop, it kind of looped and crossed itself over here, and that's a no-no. We don't want that. So back in node editing, I'm going to take this arm here and kind of pull that back around. I'm going to delete these couple of points right here so that this vector is just kind of crossing into here. Now, this vector, which kind of jumps over to here and everything, again, I'm going to join that with a smooth curve just to kind of cross it over. And I'm just going to do a simple curve. So, and I'm actually going to delete this point, zoom in. If you right click on something and you don't get the menu option you want, it's because there's usually like an anchor or something in the way, and you just got to zoom in and get, tighter. Now, here what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of smooth this out a little bit. Just to kind of change the flow there. So basically, these are now two separate components, and they're going to, when I build them separately, they will merge together. Now, in order to do that, when we look at our components, the particular components, we are merging these components together here. So we should be able to do it in the same level. We shouldn't have to move to a separate level. But if I needed these two vectors that I've just kind of created by separating the one, if I needed them to interact with each other solely and then interact with the rest of the models or the models that'll be below it in a different way. So if I needed these to merge together, but I needed to add that group, if you will, it's not really a group, but if I needed to add those to the model below it, then I would put those two models that I'm about to build on their own level, because levels separate your individual components. Levels separate your individual components so that they can interact with one another, however you set up, but the level interacts with the level below it differently. So if I need the model components that are in one level to be added to another, but I need them to merge with each other and themselves, then they would be merging in that level solely, but that whole level would be adding to the level below it, and I would get the effect that I needed. I know it sounds confusing and all, but that's what the levels are mainly for. It's to help organize your components and everything, but it's also how they blend together, because certain components need to act one way with one model component, but it needs to act another way with another model component, and levels help us do that. So in this case, right now, as of right now, I don't see any reason that I need to put these on a separate level, but if they don't cooperate with the other levels the way they need to, then they'll both be put on a separate level. And it'll be changed. But here we go. So we're going to just stay right in our sign components level. I don't think we need to go anything different. And let's get out of node editing mode. And the component we're building is a rounded profile. I want a nice curve to it, rounded profile. The profile on this It'll all just depend on what height and what curve and contour you want and everything. I'm going to go with a, I'd like a kind of a nice bubble, if you will. So I'm going to go higher than rather than lower. So 75% of the shape. So it's going to, be 75 degrees, not percent, 75 degrees. It's going to be kind of a 75 degree component. And on the scale, I'm going to just let it scale to its full height. And on the tilt and fade, I will do that separately in just a moment because I need to control the tilt after I see the model and what gets created. No base height right now. I don't want any base height because when I do a tilt, that's going to add some base to it. And as of right now, I need it to be set to a merge. And so when I set it to a merge, we have to wait a moment. Now you have to understand something. If you recall, the week before last when I was working on this billiard, we started off in 12, and immediately after the first 5 minutes, I said, oh no, we need to move over to version 11. And we did, and we built this model in version 11. Well, version 11 is no longer available for OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. Version 11 is gone. 11.5 is gone. It's only 12 and forward. I can't look back, can't go back. So we are working in 12, and so there's just a little delay. We got to kind of work through it. I've worked through some major models over the last 2 days. I've gotten used to the pace and everything, and I just need to not try to rush it. All right, let's go ahead and split our 3D view here. You can see the model component that was created. Now that the component is created, now I'm going to go into the tilt aspect of it. And on that tilt, if I'm using the create shape tool over here, I need to be, if I'm going to do the tilt here versus the property box, then I need to be in the 2D view while I'm doing it because that's where the tilt is active. It's wanting me to I'm still working off the vectors because I'm still in the create shape tool. I didn't close it out. I didn't complete the shape and all that. I'm still kind of there. So if I'm going to, be here, then I need to be working in my 2D view instead of my 3D view. Now, I like to be able to see what's going on and everything. So I'm going to just close out and complete the model, if you will. And then in my component tree, I'm going to go back, and now I can work with, my tilt and fade and my properties and everything here so I can see what I'm doing. I love to be able to be in the 3D view and see what I'm doing. I don't like doing it from the 2D view. So we're going to click on our tilt and hit our set button. Remember now, on a tilt, the first click, it's a wedge, right? The first click is the thin part of the wedge. The second click is the thicker part of the wedge. So for my first click, that little anchor with the number 1 next to it, I need it to be back here. I need the thin part of the wedge to be here. That anchor with the number 2, I need to be over here. And so I want this to be the thicker part of the wedge. So this way, when I add my tilt degrees and everything, I'm tilting, up in that fashion. I'm adding that tilt and all. So I just want to be just right above the model there. Let it generate. It's going to look all pixelated and funky while it's generating. Let it update the model and everything. And give it just a second. Like I said, I learned how to pace everything and all now. It's a lot of stuff going on here. Okay. And so what I want to see when I tilt this and everything is that I'm not too high up above the pedestal, right? and everything. And, you know, if you look at the other model, I'm just right breaking that surface and all. So I'd like to kind of have that here as well. So I'm going to bring this down to a 3.6. Let that stew for a moment and let it update. And next time I won't do that. Next time I'll use the slider bar because I can see real time up and down. And then when I get it where I want it, then it'll regenerate the model. If I type in the number and hit enter, it's going to regenerate the model. And I can't retype or re-enter until it's done. So I'm going to use the slider this time. So let the slider pop up. And let me move this box over so you can kind of, you might be able to see. I say that. It's way down in the bottom right-hand corner. And when I move to the left, everybody move to the left. It turned my, I was in tilt mode. So let's, we'll just stay right there where we are. All right, let's slide this over. I want to be just breaking the surface. Okay, I think it's going to be a 3.0 instead of a 3.8. Let's take a look. Let it generate. And again, hang with me, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get past this through fairly quickly. We only have a couple of models to build. This and the, you know, we got just the billiard balls. We'll do all them at one time. And then we can move on to the, you know, the vector creations, which will be, you know, it'll flow pretty fast. All right, I'm going to be happy with this. Now, we're going to go ahead and click close on that. I'm going to close the tool, and I'm looking at my component. And you can see here it says model with 15-degree draft, right? And on that, that's what I want. On the sides here, instead of straight up and down, I need those sides to kind of flare out. It gives it a little bit more stability, and especially in thin areas, it kind of thickens it up. But it also really smooths out the edges, and it helps kind of when the router bit is running, because a finish cut, the router bit doesn't make pass steps. The router bit runs to the fullest depth of the cut, and it only raises up and down based on the model that it's following. So it plunges to the full depth of the model, and it just raises up and down based on up and down. A little bit of a, you know, draft on my models, that 15-degree draft and everything. It's kind of like even though it's a steep ramp, it's a ramp where the bit can just kind of roll up instead of stopping, raising, going over, coming down. I can just kind of ramp up, and that is less time. It's faster. All right, so we have our model component here, and the we need to go in. Let me see where I'm at here. Right click, show only this. I want to show just this. Now, I'm doing this one at a time. Normally I would take the two models I create, but the reason why I'm showing only this is I want to put the draft just on this model. If I have it's the tool, when I'm doing a draft, it says create a component for the visible model with a draft, right? Visible model. So if all my model is visible, if I do that draft, it's drafting the edges of everything. And I don't want to do that. I only want to draft the edges of this model, right? So that's why I show only this. So in that draft tool, 15 degrees is already preset for me. Software, remember, I love a 15 or 22 and a half. It's kind of my go-tos, 15 mostly. And so it remembers your last setting. Man, ladies and gentlemen, I sure wish I would have thought a little bit ahead and made a glass of water or something. When you talk a lot, your mouth dries out. All right, so there we go. We've got that draft. It kind of just flares out that side and all. And now in our component tree, we have that model component with the 15-degree draft in the original, because it creates a brand new component. That component number 3, we don't need it anymore. Now, you can go through and you can name your components so you don't get lost with component 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and what's what and what's this and all. Right side flourish A. So I'm going to do a right side flourish A and B. This is part A. And then while we're here, I'll keep the model turned off. Don't need all those models turned back on while I'm creating this other component. Let's go ahead and select these vectors. Let's go to our rounded profile. Everything's the same. 75 degrees. Nothing's changed there. No base height. Merge. I want to merge this, and I'll give it a name while I'm here before I even... No, I won't, because it's going to create a new component with a generic name once I draft it, so I'll just wait. Okay, so that one's done. And then we will close that. Now, the important thing is how they blend together here. So I'm going to just pop over to the 3D view, and it's good. It's going to kind of come down and then back up. It'll look natural in just a moment. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to... We'll turn everything on in just a second so we can see what's going on. But let's give this a small base height. A small base height. So on this component, we're going to double click on it to get brought into the properties of that component. We're going to give it a small base height. I'm going to go just about 1/16 of an inch. Apply that. Give it just a second to generate. Okay. Looks good. All right, close that. Now, time for the draft. So go into that component, right click, show only this. So it only shows this model component, not model. And then go into my design, my draft. 15 degrees is already preset. Just click apply. Okay. And so we will build that back up. And there we go. Back in our component tree, that model component, this will be our right side flourish B, part B. So rename right side flourish. I don't need to put the word part B. Okay. Wonderful. All right. So we have our right side flourish part A and B. And if we zoom out, let's get those turned on. If we zoom out and everything, let me turn this so you can see. They will kind of blend in here. And because of the draft, this didn't quite get into there. The thing that I like about the new software is on the vectors, I can make changes on the fly and on the components as well. So in version 12. So let's go to version 12 here. Oh, let me get out of node editing mode for just a second. Sorry about that. And what I want to do pull this into here a little bit more. So it flows into there a little bit more there. And it might just be my shadow shading that I'm saying. Let me turn off my shadow shading for a minute. And, oh yeah, that's all. Never mind. I don't need to change that. That's all I'm saying was the shadow shading. The software has a little use shadow shading where it kind of shows like the darker areas, it darkens up. Let me hit undo on that. I didn't need to change that at all. Oops. Hit undo one too many times. Okay. So the shadow shading was playing with my mind. It's like, think about lighting and everything. It's kind of darker down lower and everything. And that's what I was seeing. It didn't look like it was blending properly. So, okay. So let's go back now. And we've got let's get out of node editing mode. Okay. Let's turn off our vectors. Oops. Let's turn on our vectors. What am I doing here? All right. Beautiful. Okay, so we've got our vector there. It's going to blend nicely into this one. This one has a tilt to it, so it's sitting up high. That's very good. And so all the pool table components, we'll turn them back on for a moment. And then what we'll do is let's start on the billiard balls because that's what's next and everything. So our pool table accents, let's get that built up. All right, so on our pool table, I'm not going to go through and turn on everyone. I will wait till the end to the final reveal. Let's just move forward. We are left with our pool stick, our little chalk parts. And that chalk parts, believe it or not, even for me, it's going to be kind of tricky. I want to make sure that I build the part right so it looks like a square cube. It's going to be a little bit tricky to make sure it blends all well. And then our billiard balls. So let's start off with the cue stick. And let's start off with the base. Let's split to the, let's kind of get right zoomed in here. And this is going to be a full-on, imagine that you're looking at a round stick, right? So it's a full-on 90-degree curved profile. So up here, the degrees is 90. Base height is only if you need height and everything. I'm not going to add any base height to this because there's other components that need to be added to it. And so it's going to kind of give them a little bit of a different look. And here's what you got to imagine. Your models that are going to get wrapped on this, like where the handle is and the little tips and the part where the cue stick breaks in half and all. These are going to, so that you can see them, so they're not just blending evenly and stuff. With a regular pool stick, it's smooth, right? Up to the tip. The tip is slid over and all, or it's glued on sometimes or what have you. But, it's smooth. So the center part where these threads and stuff would be, here, you wouldn't typically fill them or they wouldn't be raised up. But this is a sign, right? And we need to create that illusion that there's something there. And if we don't make it where it's a little bit proud, so that we can tell that something is there, then there's no point even having that detail in it and all. So we need this model to add to the slate that's underneath it. It needs to sit on top. So the combine mode is going to be add. And then for the name, we will, I'll just call it pool Q. And go pool Q. All right. Now, at this point, I want to show only this so you're not distracted by all the stuff around it. I want you to see the building of this model. So we're going to go ahead and go into the component tree, right-click, and show only this. I just want everything to be white in the background so it's easier for you all to see what we're doing. And then I'm also going to, the vectors are going to be on, but I'm going to take those vectors right now. I don't know if I separated them. Let me see if I separated the vectors into. Beautiful. All right, so I want to show only this. Show only this. Okay, so that way I'm just dealing with the vectors of the Q stick here. All right. Now, the by building the shape, okay, by building the shape as just a closed vector, doing that dome shape, because of the end component here, it wants that dome, not only domes on the sides, but it also domes on the two ends. Kind of, it almost kind of like, comes in and then it creates that rounded dome in the middle, right? Like a pyramid with a rounded top instead of a pointy top. And that's absolutely not what I want in this situation. What I want is I need it to be just a curved profile. And I need it to be straight here. I don't want it lean in the way it is. So I'm going to turn off that component that I just created, and I'm going to clip the end of the vector off on both ends, and I'm going to do a 2-route sweep. So what we're going to do is on the vector, let's get into the 2D view for this. On my pool Q vector, I'm going to go into node editing, and let's get out of node editing. Let's go to our fillet tool first. And bring it back to a sharp corner on both of these. I don't think that one is gonna, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Now that is this top vector, and I need it out of the way for a moment. So I'm going to move it here. I know where it goes. Here, I'm going to go back into my fillet tool, and see on my fillet tool here, the radius is too big, so we're not seeing the X. We're only seeing the check mark, right? And the rounding, it's not like taking away, it's wanting to add more to it. So I have to go into node editing. I'm going to basically cut the vector here and here, and I'm going to eliminate that. Going to do the same thing here. Cut the vector at these two endpoints. Delete that. Ooh. It did not cut on that end. There we go. Delete that. And then I'm going to use the extend tool to extend this from this point to this point. And you'll see why it, in an instant, it's not quite an angle there. So the, what am I trying to say? That's why it wouldn't let me just use the fillet tool to take away that and all. All right, let's go into node editing. Let's fix a few things. Number one, we're going to select this top node first. It's a node I want to align to. We're going to select this bottom node last. It's the node I want to align. And left to right is your x-axis. Up and down is your y. So I'm going to hit the letter X on the keyboard. And I'm going to pull that node out. Let's do the same thing here and here. Pull that out. Get squared up. And let's go and trim. It's going to fight with me. All right. Sorry about that. Now we're going to delete just that span. Just because I extended the lines to the span doesn't mean I connected them to the other thing. I just extended those other lines out. So it's not a connection. You would still, if you were trying to close this vector, you would still need to go to the join tool to join it up. But I'm not trying to close the vector. I'm actually trying to take off the ends. I just wanted to straighten them out. Let's go all the way to the other end of this pull cue. Now this one has a couple of vectors on it. It has the pull tip. I'll move that back just so you can see. It has the vector for the kind of like the plastic part of the tip that slides over the end. That's right there. And this is the actual vector that runs to the other end. I'm going to go into node editing and delete this span. And now I have just these two straight vectors. Now I need to create that rounded curve, that 90-degree curve and everything. And so at the widest part, I don't really have to make my circle a particular size, but I need to make sure it's at least this wide here so that it doesn't flatten out. I need that nice round arch and everything. So before I finish that circle off, I need to kind of figure out how far apart my measurement is. And roughly about 0.36 inches. So I need to at least make sure that the diameter of my circle is, at least, we'll go 3/8. That'll be fine. So 0.375 will be fine. We'll create that there. Now I'm going to go into node editing and cut that circle in half because we only need the top vector. All right, so now I have a profile and I have two rails, my upper rail and my lower rail. We're going to go into the two rail sweep tool. We're going to go into the selection and select the bottom rail first, the top rail second, and that's going to be our selection. We're going to select our profile. Now on the profile here, I am going to scale the cross section with the width, so it will kind of go down as it gets narrower because it's kind of a taper and everything. So I want to kind of have that gradual scaling and all. If I just swept between the spans, I may have an adverse effect that I don't want. Let's go into the 3D view so we can see what gets created, and let's call this our pull cue. Click apply. All right. And so as it creates that dome and everything, it, gets smaller as it goes, in and everything, but we still have that nice 90-degree kind of, curve, All right, beautiful. So there we go. Now, the next thing I need to do is let's start a new component. Always click start a new component before you start selecting other vectors and everything. When we're in the, a tool, I'm no longer needing to do the 2-rail sweep at this point. And this vector can go back where it belongs. And don't worry, I'll show you how we're going to round off those edges again on that back side, because I do want them kind of rounded and all. As a matter of fact, let me do that not right now, but let me take this and go to the join tool, join with a straight line once, twice, so it does both ends. To close that vector up, let me put the fillet tool back into motion. That's too big of a fillet. Let's go 03125. Okay. And then might as well do it while we're here. I'm going to hold down the shift key, select that. I'm going to select the component, and I'm going to go and remove everything that's outside of the selected vector of that component. So it will go through and remove everything. And then in the 3D view, it'll kind of just, round off that edge. It's not going to do much up here, but on those lower edges. All right, let's go ahead and get this vector back into play. I don't know why this vector looks crooked as all be it, but it is. So hold on a second. Let me node editing. Select this one, hold down the shift key, select the bottom one, and hit the letter X. Yeah, it was crooked as all be it. Node editing, select the vector, and hit the letter X. There we go. That's a straight line. All right. Now, these are stripes. Again, typically they would be kind of flush with the surface, but that doesn't help us when we're creating a model. We need it to look like an accent or what have you. So on these two parts here, let me get a node editing. On these two parts here, I need to just create a flat shape. And I mean, just a small amount. So I'll go 0.03125. And it's going to be an add. I need it to wrap over this cue that's underneath it. And don't hit the close button instead of the create button, you goofball. Let's go to the 3D view. All right. The preview, I'm waiting for the preview to catch up to itself because it'll be much smoother. Right now it's looking, I don't know what, yeah, it's looking pixelated as all be it. It's taken just a moment for the for it to catch up to itself. So let's we'll move on while it's going to be pixelated. It'll straighten itself out in a minute on my view for all of us. Let's go here. Now, this is going to be kind of a dome shape. It's like a little rubber bumper. So it's going to be dome shaped and rounded. It's just a curved profile. We don't have to do anything. It'll kind of do itself. It'll pull itself around on this direction and on this direction because of the shape. So it's just a curved profile. And I'm just going to go, kind of the full on. Let me think about this for a minute. Not going to go the full 90 because it'll look pillowy. It'll look ugly. So let's go 45 degrees. No base height. Let me think. I need it to merge. This is where the pool cue, every one of the pool cue models, they have to interact with each other a certain way versus how they have to sit on the slate that's underneath them. They can't like merge down in the slate. So this is where another level comes in. So right now we're going to go into the components. We're going to insert a new level. And then I'll get to your questions. We're going to do questions here in just a second. Let me get these in their proper level. So we need the pool cue main in that level. Component 5. And component 6. I'll go back and rename them in a moment. All right, so right now our little dome here, we can't the component 6 that we just made, it has no shape to it. It has no height or anything at all. The total height is only 0.017, and let's go the full 90. Let's double that up. No limit to the height. .1759 is what my .15. Got to wait for it to generate. There you go. All right, that's not going to bode very well for what I want. That pixelation is killing me, but it is it's not regenerating itself. Okay, good. Let's see here. Now, I want to get it up high. So 0.08 is too low. 0.125 was too high, or 0.15 was too high. Let's go 0.1. And I'll go back with the actual sculpting tools and I'll shape it the way that I want and everything. And the smoothing tool, it'll smooth out all the edges and kind of give it a little bit of more of a round shape. So let it regenerate. And then we got to move on. This is building a pool cue is taking longer than the whole damn project. Let's go. Okay, 0.1. Let it update the model. That pixelation is brutal. You know what's funny is when I'm not streaming, I have no delays, no hesitations or anything like that. when I am streaming. It is. It's a tough one. All right, let's go. Okay, we're going to leave that at that. And then when I hit the smooth on this and smooth out those edges, that'll kind of fix that up. All right, let's close that tool. And let's switch back around here. In the center, I need this to wrap around. So I'm going to go into node editing, and I need to select these two bottom nodes using the arrow keys on the keyboard. I want to bump them just past the model there, selecting these top nodes, using the arrow keys on the keyboard, just bump that up. This is going to be a domed profile, full 90-degree dome. It's going to be added to the one that's underneath it, so it kind of wraps over. Click Create. And I should have had the vectors go past on these other ones in the back. But let's look at this in the 3D view. Okay. All right, so on the dome height here, the new controls and everything, I can kind of tone that down a little bit. When you can see it, it actually is very nice. It allows me to adjust and, this, once again, I'm getting that dome right there on the end. That's kind of one of my main problems. So same thing, it's going to be a 2-rail sweep. I'm still going to use this profile, but I need to cut the ends off of it. So let's select that. Let's close out of this. And I think we'll move on to the pool cues. Lord have mercy, this is taking too long. You guys know how to build, should know how to build models by now. Let's see here. Let's go back into node editing. And on this vector, let's delete this point. Or that span, sorry, not a point. Here, delete that span. Get out of node editing, delete that component. All right, on my 2-rail sweep, I'm going to select this lower vector. Let me close this tool for just a moment. I didn't want to be that far away from the pool cue. All right, one more time. 2-rail sweep. Let's grab our lower vector, hold down the shift key, upper vector. That's going to be our drive rails. Our profile here is going to be our dome circle. We're going to scale it with the cross section, and it's going to be an add. We'll click apply. This will give me those flat ends as we go across, and it'll kind of maintain its height here. Now, again, I don't need to, let me close this tool. I don't need to be that tall, right? It's taking the shape that was created plus the shape that's underneath, and it's adding to it, right? I don't need to be sitting that high up. So on my height, I can pull that down. I'm loving that when you can actually see it, it actually makes sense. I don't know why it's so pixelated on the computer, but being able to use these controls, these new controls in V12, It's just a matter of when you grab the control, you are pushing up or pulling down, or you're changing the height. And it's it is a nice what am I trying to say? It's nice to be able to do that right on the flow, on the fly, not the flow. I pulled it down a little bit too far. So let's go back up. I can see where I'm at here on the base, and I'm at a negative still. I need to be at a positive, and so I'm going to go just a positive 0.03125. And of course, I said positive, but I forgot to take the minus sign out of there. So let me do that again. This is brutal sometimes. All right. And then let's go ahead and click OK. Now, the dome here is slightly higher than over here. It's kind of keeping its height all the way across, even though there's kind of like a bit of a taper. And when I'm creating my, when I was doing my sizes and moving and everything, even though it was pixelated and you couldn't really see it, I'm doing it down at this end, right? Not here, but it's creating it. It's not tilting it. It's not doing anything like that. It's just kind of, creating that in an even up and down. Well, what I need is this to be slightly lower. I don't need to be sticking up that high there, but I need this to stay right where it is on this end. So that's going to be a fade, not a tilt, a fade. And so on this component, in the component properties on the fade, when you're setting your fade, your first click is the area you want to keep. The second click is where you're fading away. You're fading to. So for me, the first click is going to be on this end, and the second click is going to be here. I'm going to go just slightly past it. And it's going to do a 50% fade by default. And it's going to, drop that down. But you can adjust your fade, whatever you feel. And 50 was actually pretty decent, but I'm going to I'll go 60. Let it regenerate. Give it just a second to update the model. And so I'm just kind of fading that back end down slightly. So it's just barely sitting above and everything. That's good. Okay, moving on. We would do the same thing with these vectors here. And this vector is also a 2-rail sweep. This tip, give me just 1 second. Now would be a good time to hit save. Felt like it was going to crash in my mind. Let's answer a couple of questions while that's saving. Hello, everyone. This is a great new guy on the channel. Hey, yeah, Billy McGee, welcome. Thanks for being a Spindle TV exclusive member. Saw you joined, and I got your email. Hopefully you got my reply back with all the links and stuff. Man, so glad to see you here. Thanks for that. This is recording, so you can watch it later. It's just live to be live, but if you have to fall off, if you got things you got to do or stuff like that, it's as soon as the live ends, it's available to watch, and it's right there on the channel. Great to see you, man. Got to support by watching the Texas game. Football trumps most in many cases. So let's see here. Tilt versus base height. Yes. If I lower the base height, Brooks Martin, it's going to lower the whole thing. And that front end, I wanted it to stay right where it was. So if I lower the base height, it would lower the whole thing down by whatever I take the base height down. I needed this end to stay where it was, and I needed to bring the back end down. And so I'm not tilting at a wedge. I'm not sticking a wedge under it. I'm fading it. So I need that to fade down and start to kind of fade away. It just lower itself basically. So it would be a fade versus a base height adjustment. Or it would be in other cases, depending on which one you're referring to, you would, tilt versus base height. Base height's going to control the whole thing. A tilt is going to adjust, whatever part that I want to raise up and not the other part. A fade is going to drop down whatever part I want to fade and not the rest of it, that kind of thing. All right. Yep, that was a flourish question. Yep. So same thing. It's going to be a tilt on that lower level. We tilted it up. We stuck a wedge under it so it sits on top of the pedestal where that rack 'em up was. But I didn't want to do a base height because I don't want to raise the whole thing up and then have this back end of the flourish looking all funky and sticking up, 3 inches, which it would be. It'd only be an inch up. So I want to tilt it up. I want to tilt the other end up so it looks like it's flowing up that pedestal. Good questions. All right. And then Brooks also asked Laney, why not create the components on separate smaller sheets to minimize the pixels for each component, and then copy to the working sheet? Yeah, I could do that probably. Yep. Brooks is saying, hey, copy the vectors, build it on, one sheet versus the other, but I'm still using the same program. I don't care how many sheets are in it. All the models are turned off right now, but I'm still, pixelating. So if I have sheet 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, it's not going to be any different. Right. So that's why I'm not doing that. All right, let's go back here. And so in this vector here, this vector belongs here at the tip. And on this one, I kind of want it to have that rounded over on the end look. So I'm actually going to connect these two vectors together so that when I create this dome, it creates that dome inward this way. And I think I'll get the effect that I want more. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this to blend those two together. I'm not going to do a 2-rail sweep on this one. I'm going to hold down or go to node editing, and I'm going to just bump these slightly past that edge there. Take this, bump it past that edge there. Okay. And then that vector should be closed. It is. So that'll be a curved profile with a base height, a little bit of base height. But I'm going to go the full 90. No base height. It's going to wrap right over that. No merge. Let's go ahead and create that component. All right, let's go look at the 3D view and what we can see here. Let's kind of see if I can get this to spin back around here. Now, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, on a single click, it will, when you single click on any of the faces, it will turn to that face. In my case, it's not doing that. This is the only program, this Billiard sign is the only program that doesn't do that. Any of my other signs, it does it just fine. So there's something really big in my Billiard program. Or I just have a lot of components, one of the two. But so oops. What we've got here, once again, because it's building the shape plus the shape that's underneath, on the component that I just created. I've got my controls here, so I can lower down the, what I need. And so, and it's just a matter of pulling down up or down your mouse. When you click on one of those bubbles that are in the 3D view, it's just a matter of clicking up and down. All right, let me see if I can get kind of a front view happening here. Whoa. Everybody is kung fu fighting. Okay, my overall height. Most likely, yeah, exactly what I thought. My thought on combining those two vectors together didn't work. All right, so what's happening is there's nothing under where that tip is for it to wrap over and everything. So it's flattening out. It's just falling off the edge and all that. So if I take my component and move it back, let me move it back. And I'll end up creating a new vector for this that will trim everything and kind of blend up the rounded edges and stuff, because I'm going from square to round. But by bringing it back, it brings that tip back over the edge, and I'm still off. And again, right now I'm kind of my hands are tied right now because of this pixelation. I can't see it very clearly as to what it's doing. And it's a computer thing. It's not a Vectric thing, so don't worry. If your computer just can't pull it, your computer can't pull it. My computer can't pull it, not while I'm streaming. So it is what it is. But until I get $5,000 for my next computer, I'm on hold. So that's what I'm working for. That's all those little super chats you guys do for me, Brooks Martin. That's what it all goes towards, buddy. It's going in a nice little savings. Got my PC quote for that custom PC I'm trying to shoot for. It's $5,000. All right. Let's go. Let's move on. I think we've spent enough time on a pool cue. And let's go into our layers, turn all the layer vectors back on. Ooh, they're colorful. Okay, let's go ahead and build some billiard balls. We'll come back to the pool cue. I think we spent enough time on that. We'll come back, dress it up. But don't worry, your model file, when I save it for the final time in Drive, it'll have a beautiful pool cue sitting there. I just got to play with the vectors and everything and get them there. It's rounded, but just because it's falling off the edge right here, that tip is just falling off. So what I need to do is I need to recreate the tip in a way that it looks like it's a tip of a pool cue, but it's not really at the tip of the pool cue because all it'll do is just fall right off, and there's no merge or there's no anything that's going to make it look any better. And so it's going to be kind of sculpting and stuff like that, which I'll make a separate class. It'll be one of those pre-recorded videos, and it won't be an exclusive class. It'll be like one of our Thursday night classes where you just see me showing how to clean up an existing model kind of thing. But right now, that is the best I can do on the Q-tip because I can't see it very well, but I can see the bulge, but I just can't see the tip clear enough to see what I need to do there. I've got everything that I want right here because it's all going to come down to painting. Just because my pool stick is, it's going to be brown, whatever color my wood is, right? So all of my tips and the covers, and that's a little high. I got to bring that down. But all of that stuff, it's going to be painted. You're painting the sign. So the finishing is really where it's going to pop. You got to paint all your cue balls, or not your cue balls, but all your pool balls and all the stripes and all the numbers and all of this and all of that. So finish is a thing. It's not going to magically be perfect. So I may have to sand, I may have to blend, I may have to do this, I may have to do that. I can get it as close as I could possibly hope for. But we're in the design phase right now, not the finishing phase. All right, let's go ahead. Now this is going to be just a straight on dome. So it's a curved profile, no base height, 90 degrees. Add combine mode. These are the pool balls. Pool balls. All right, in the 3D view, you should see those there. Okay. Click apply. On the name change, apply that. Now, on your stripes, you can either have the stripes slightly reduced out of the curve profile, so it's kind of like just a little recess, and then your numbers can be in there. The numbers can be raised up in that. Or you can have the stripes lay over, just kind of like it is laying over on the pool cue here. Have the stripe lay over, and then your number sits on top of that. Either way, they're all going to be added to one another so that they blend and lay right. So now on the next component on this, we're going to do all the inside circles. So, oops, don't move. I moved all the models just with that one little mouse click. Control Z to undo. All right, let's try that again. Now I'm selecting all of the smaller circles. For me, the smaller circles are going to be raised up, and the numbers are going to be raised up even more, sitting on top of them. And again, they would be smooth on a real pool ball. They wouldn't be sticking up like that, or it wouldn't roll very well, right? This is a sign. Okay, so let's go ahead and this is going to be I'm going to do a flat shape because it's going to take on the shape that's underneath it. So it's going to curve itself. So it's going to be a flat shape. And to think about what I just said out loud, my Q-tip and the handle part that I wrapped over should have been a flat shaped, not a curved profile. Should have been a flat shape. It should have just laid over like a sheet. It shouldn't have been curved. That dome that I was dealing with and blending and everything should have been a flat shape, not a curved profile. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. All right, so this is going to be our pool ball numbers. And there's going to be an add. They're going to be add, and then you're going to give it a base height. And I'm only going to give it just a small amount of base height just to sit up. So 0.05. Create. And this is going to create, it's going to curve over. It's going to wrap around the ball, but the edges on this are going to be, they're going to be kind of straight down. And I want that flare, that flow, that draft on them and everything. So let's look at the 3D view so you can see what we got going on here, right? So even 0.05 is too tall. That's too much height. So in that pool ball component and everything, a little bit goes a long way. So on that, I'll bring this down to a 0.02. Wait for it. Okay. And got to have something. Can't have nothing. Got to have something. Now, all of these, boys and girls, when I come in here and I show only this, so when I go into the component tree and I right click and go show only this, all the other models are going to get turned off, and all I'm going to have are these little flat discs, if you will, right? So just these little flat discs and everything. And what I'm doing on these little flat discs is I'm adding that draft, right? So I'm gonna, with that selected, and it's only one, I only want the draft on those. We're gonna do a draft. I'm gonna stick with my 15-degree draft, and it's going to kind of flare out those sides. I've got the resolution jacked up. I believe I do. Let me see. Let me make sure. Yeah. And that could be another thing. I could lower the resolution for this class. I'm not selling this model. I'm giving it to y'all, but I can rebuild this model at a higher resolution. Let me do that. That might make our viewing experience a little bit more pleasurable. I'm going to crank this down. Might make our viewing experience a little bit more pleasurable. We'll see. All right. So if we go back to our 3D view and everything, possibly not. Anyway, let's go back and turn off our main component. This is automatically, when a draft is added, it's created as a merge model, not an add. So it needs to be an add. And then the pool balls need to go back underneath it. And yeah, sorry, major mistake there. Let's turn that resolution back up a little bit. Give me just a second. That was a little too low. I was being a little bit generous there. Hold down the shift key. Turn that back up. We'll go 20 times higher. Ooh, doggy. Okay. That's better. It's not great, but it's better. All right. When I make the model for you guys and girls, it'll be at the highest resolution. It'll be a top quality model. You can change the name and all that stuff, and it'll be something you can carve. All right. Let's go ahead. We got to move on. Let's move on because we got things to do. I want to get to the vector carving of this. It's already 8:54. So let's go ahead and do our numbers. All right. Let's turn off those, and oops. Stop. When I'm right clicking or right dragging, it's selecting the pool ball that's underneath it. And I thought it was selecting them all at once, you know, the numbers, but it fooled me. It was just when you go right to left, when you're dragging your mouse, it selects all the vectors and everything. And so I'm going left to right. So I can cross over other vectors, but it's only going to select what's 100% in my selection window that I'm dragging out. So nothing else, like the circle, is not 100% in the window. That's 100%. Well, that's 90% in. But, you know, if I was 100% in, it would select it. As long as I'm not, it won't select it. Kind of thing. So left to right. All right, let's see. Make sure they're all dotted there. Okay, with the numbers, same thing. It's going to be a flat shape. So flat shape. We'll go to base height. These are going to stick up just a little bit more as well, too. They're going to stick up a little higher on the circles, which are sitting up on top of the balls. Numbers. And then same thing. Now, some of these numbers are really skinny. I'm a big advocate. If you're building models, your model should have some kind of draft somewhere. I think, and that's way too tall. That was 0.2, not 0.02. But I think straight walls, the edges look, it's fragile on some things. When I see certain people build models of letters and everything, and numbers and all, and they do a straight wall. Imagine, this being a straight wall like it is. It's blurry as all shit and everything right now, but excuse my language, but it's blurry as all be it. But when it's a straight wall, that's a fragile piece, and depending on the wood my wood might be brittle. Who knows? I don't know. But I want to flare it out. I want to add some meat to it. So, do people a favor and, add some draft to your model, and everything. All right, let's go ahead and close that. Let's go into our component tree. Let's show only this. And then add our draft to our numbers. Brooks, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I don't want to take the time to find that out right this second, but I'm sure it might be spread across the whole 30 by 20 and 3/16 or what have you, and everything. And making a smaller sheet might do it, but it's still within the same program, the same window. If I had different windows or something, it'd be that. But I don't know. I'm not. I'd have to ask Vectric. It's not a question that I had, but probably you could be 100% correct. You could be teaching me something right now, and I honestly don't have the answer to that. So, but I'm not going to take the time to create another sheet and all that stuff when everything's right here in front of me. But you're probably on the right track. You're probably like 100% telling me exactly what I need to do to make things clear and all that stuff. I'm just going to be stubborn and not listen because I want to get past this. This is the last thing I'm doing on the model. It's done. Then I can get to the vectors and I don't have to deal with it. All right. So I didn't, I have just built some of the highest definition models for Garrett Fromm and stuff like that. And some other projects that I'm working on didn't have this issue and all. But as soon as I start streaming on StreamYard, now it's all pixelated and it won't regenerate itself and everything like that. So it's not the program by any means, and changing from one sheet to another is not going to help my computer get better. It's just my computer. It's, because when I'm not streaming, these would be crisp as all be it. The edges, there would be no pixelation in this right now. None. I've been, for the last 3 days till 5 o'clock in the morning, I've been building models for customers and all, and no pixelation whatsoever. But as soon as I start streaming on StreamYard, it doesn't regenerate. It is what it is. I don't know what the correlation is, but it has to do with my computer and what my computer is trying to process with the stream and getting the data out and this and that and that and that has nothing to do with creating sheets. So I'm not ignoring your suggestion. You're probably right on track with what you're saying, but it's not going to help my computer get better. And that's what it is. My computer's a POS. It used to be a Hewlett Packard, but after so many years, it turned into a POS. All right, so let's see here. So let's go to our draft. Let's click apply. But you're probably 100% right on target, Brooks, but not for my computer. All right, let's go. And Brooks, man, I see you like when you're watching Garrett's and even my classes and in the live classes and all. You know what you're talking about. We all, YouTube could use some additional content creators and trainings and stuff. When I was doing the G code class, you were talking, some good stuff. You should really consider, I don't know what your day job is, but content creation, seriously. We could always use it. We've got, Garrett, we've got, oh shoot, I always forget the kid's name. Anyway, Learn Your CNC. I keep forgetting his name. What is it?
Hamilton.
Oh,
Hamilton Felbeck.
That's one. But the Learn Your CNC, the young kid, it's Dwight. Forgive me. Kyle. So we got Kyle. We got Mark Lindsay and all that. We need more. And Brooks, I've seen your comments. You know what you're talking about. So I honestly think you've got I don't know what your day job is, but I think you know exactly what you got going on in software and G code and all that. You should pass that knowledge on to us. All right. Seriously, I'm being sincerely serious. All right. So our draft was added. Let's close this. Let's go back to our components because I've seen your comments. You know what you're talking about. So I'm glad you even listened to my dumb. Let's see here. All right. Let's go here and rename this to numbers. All right, let's go ahead and turn on our pull balls. Line mode is an add. All right. And so those are going, let's turn off the vectors there. Those are going to be our cue balls or our pull balls and stuff. Now we got to do the stripes really quickly. I think we kind of all get it, but I'm actually going to recess the stripe slightly instead of building it up. I'm going to actually kind of recess it. So on the stripes, for the stripe balls, on the stripe balls, I'm going to do a flat shape, but it's going to be a subtract. And Brooks, when I'm not streaming, I'll email Vectric and say, hey, what does the resolution cover? I'll find out, for that, and I'll let you know. I'll reach out to you in the exclusive Facebook group and all, because I honestly don't know the answer to that, what it is, but I know it doesn't help the computer get any better. But it is a question I'm going to ask Vectric because it's a question I need to know. All right. So once again, small amount, very small amount. So I'm going to go to 0.02. And let me see here. What do we got? Epoxy would be cool for the balls. Yes. Epoxy would be cool for the balls. So you could do pockets. Do the epoxy. You have to build your little wall or whatever. And then fill the epoxy for your stripe, then do your cut out your next part, fill the epoxy for the balls, and then the numbers, so they're kind of everything is recessed within the epoxy, like black and all that stuff. It'd be a process for sure. I've never worked with epoxy, so I don't know. Seriously, I've never worked with epoxy. I've made river tables, things like that, but not like epoxy inlays and this and that, and all right, this is the stripes. And if you don't mind people knowing, what was your day job, Brooks? Because you got some knowledge. You were talking about tape splitting. I had to look that up after that class. In which the tape splitting, all it is breaking the G code up. And everything and all that, but the term tape splitting, that was way before my time, so I didn't know what I literally at the end of the class I said, what is tape splitting? I would look over and oh shit, that's just breaking the G code up. But it stumped me for the whole class. It was always in the back of my mind, like tape splitting. All right, let's go to the 3D view. And so on our stripes, we're literally just kind of recessing that down, that stripe and everything, just a few thousandths of an inch, just to give a little bit of definition. And that's it. Now we'll Yep. Let's click off of there. And so with that, you can see a little bit of that recess in the ball. Kind of gives that illusion of that stripe, if you will. This is where paint now comes in. You know, you paint your stripes and all that stuff. You know, it's all about the finish. All about the finish. All about the finish. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So the last, let me try to build one of these cubes really quickly. Let me see what vectors I got going on here. So we have a top vector like this and a top vector like that. I honestly don't know how this is going to look. So let me just do it really quickly. Flat shape. I'll go 1/16 of an inch. Click create. Let me go to the 3D view. And let's kind of go from a front view so it looks that perspective. All right, close that. Go to the next vector, which is this vector here. Flat shape. Should also be 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625. I don't know why I keep doing the 00 at the beginning. Now, where these two edges come together, if I don't merge them, there's gonna be like a little part that, like, I swear it's like two waves clashing. When they clash, they come up like this, right? And so that part will be spiked right in the middle where the two models collide, or where they meet and everything. And also, if I don't overlap my vectors slightly and everything, I'll have this gap here, right? And I need it to merge. But I need them to merge with each other, but I need them to sit on the slate. So this is another level. Okay, this is another level. The pool cubes would be on their own level. If we look at the, if we turn this off and everything here, there's a noticeable gap right there because my vectors should overlap. And two, once they overlap, it's going to create that wave where it pushes them up unless they're merged together. So here, in the component tree, this would be a new level. Now that level is going to add to the level below it because I need it sitting on top of the slate and all that stuff. But the two components that just got created, they're going to merge with one another. So their combine mode would be changed from add to merge. And on this one, the top one, I'm going to delete it for right now. And I'm going to on this vector, I need to have it to where there's no gap. Okay, so I'm going to go into node editing on this vector, and I'm going to pull this in so there's an overlap there, right? And I need, what I hate is, I think it's showing me where the model is ending right there. So even if I come down to in here, I should be okay. Let's come down to, just going to come into there where that is. And I'm going to rebuild that. We'll see what it looks like. Let's go with a flat shape. Merge base height of 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625. Dang it. Let me get rid of that leading zero. Apply. Now, again, the pixelation is not doing me justice, but in here in the 3D view, I can see the green. I see the green where it overlaps and it merges. And if it wasn't a merge, if it was an add, then let me hit apply real quick. It would shoot that part up like right here, you know, like I said, the two waves clashing, right? So we need it to merge so it blends together. But now I got to fix my edges. I do need to bring the edge all the way to the end. On there, let me just all right, let's see here. I don't know why I got ooh in my head. Okay. And then the next shape. So now this is going to be a dome shape here. Let's get to it. Still got a tool open. Always close your tools. All right. So this one, the circle is going to be a dome shape. And it's going to be just a small dome. Right now, my model right now, as it sits, is only 1/16 of an inch tall, right? So I just need I need it to look like a dome shape. So it is going to be a curved profile, but I don't need a big old 90-degree curve. I just need a recess. And so I think I'll go 30 degrees, subtract, and on the total height, I'm just going to put that. It's 0.0937 right now. And even at that, you know, there's a model underneath. So even if it took that out, it's fine when I put the slate and everything under it. Right now it's flattened out here, you know, because there's nothing underneath it. But once I turn on that slate model and everything, it'll fully dome out. The thing of the matter is, it just looks like I need a kind of a defining line right here. So I would actually probably do that with like a V bit. Do a nice little V groove line following this vector right here. To give that difference of, you know, the top versus the bottom. I could probably build it into the model as well. But right now, this just looks like, it doesn't look like a cube by any means. And it's all a mind play, you know. But let's turn on the pool table components underneath it. Yeah, I think if it had that little bit of a defining line, and hell, it might have had that defining line with the separation. Oh, I just didn't want the separation, but that separation might have actually given that dimensional, like there's a top and a bottom. It might have given the difference. I didn't like the idea of a gap. But what am I doing if I do a V bit across that line? I'm creating that gap, right? So if I delete that and I refix that vector, go back into node editing. If I put that vector right back the way I drew it, That connects there. That connects there. And let me see which one's my rectangle. All right, let's rebuild that shape. You know what else would have given it probably another good definition if I would have divided this up here and built this component, and the top component, the way there was a dividing line kind of right here in the middle a bit too. That might have helped it also. Yep. Yep. All right, let's go with a flat shape, 1/16 of an inch. Point. Merge. Create. Brooks, are you still with me? I didn't lose you, did I? Brooks might not like me not listening to him. Brooks. $30, subtract. All right. Let's close out of that. Let's go back to the 3D view. Not really enough of a shadow. There is some bit of a, so I might, God, I don't know. Okay, think about this. If I separated those lines, if I separated them a little bit more where there's more of a gap there, when I put my draft on the parts, that 15-degree draft, when both parts get drafted and everything, that they would come together and it would create that kind of V-shaped line, like a V groove and all. So that's, that's what we could do. All right, let me just one last time, and we got to move on because it's already 9:19. Okay, let's turn that one off. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to go back into node editing. I'm actually going to pull. Okay. Ooh. All right. That'll work. And if that works, then I'll actually end up, not now, but I'll end up separating the two panels on the side, left and right on the bottom down here, to create that defining kind of corner and everything, that crease, if you will. All right, let's go ahead and give that a shot. And then we can move on. Flat shape, 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625. Merge. And create. Now, the next 40 minutes we're going to spend creating a V-carve of this sign. We are going to run another 40 minutes. I hate it, but we are probably 30 minutes. Let's close this up. Let's go to our components. Let's move that down here. Go to our 3D view. And we also have to turn that needs to get turned off. This needs to get turned off. Okay. And when I show this and this, oh, not that one. That one. Come on now. And that one. Show only this. Okay, it's not going to let me show only this on the one. Show only this. And then I'll turn on the other one. And I'm actually going to do the draft on both of them together. It'll create as one. So it'll basically, that draft will close up and give me that hard defining line right there. Close that. Come back into my components. Turn off the originals. Bring this down below the dimple. So the dimple is removed from the top of it. Set the combine mode to add. Okay. So that would be that. I think it would probably look good with a nice crease down the front too. Okay, let's go ahead and let's turn on the pool table accents. Let's turn on the pool table. Parts, the sign components. On level 2, the balls and stripes. Let's get back into full view. All right, on the sign components, we're going to turn on our models. The right side flourish A and B. Well, you know where flourish B is. It's going to be component 4. For some reason, the name didn't stick. The left flourish, the top flourish, and the right flourish. All right, so the this is where naming your components comes in handy. So when you see like 5 model with 15-degree draft in a row, you're like, okay, which one is that? Did I? All right, so the text 1 and text 2. And unfortunately, I was click them all, but certain components don't belong. Okay, 8-ball. That will be enough. We still have another cube to make. That'll get mirrored to the other side. Once I make one, why make what you can copy and everything. And so for the most part, this is our 3D model table here. And there might be a few other flourishes that need to get turned on. But that is our the number 8 on the top of the number 8, which would probably be component 2 right there. Unless I didn't build the number on top of that one in the last class, we'll find out. But yeah, it didn't. I didn't do the number 8, but that is our model. Now, let's take and look at this as if it were a vector for signs. Now, currently, right now, all of the vectors are turned on, right? So all of the vectors are turned on, and it's right in front of us. So we purchased, let's imagine, if you will, that we purchased a vector for the sign. We thought it was very cool. We don't have the ability to build models. We have to VCarve this and make it look like something, right? Now, I still want that same raised effect. I'm not going to get the beautiful domes, but in Vectric VCarve Pro, I could, because I do have the ability in the clip art on all, like on the cue balls and stuff like that and everything. In the clip art, we have what's called domes and dishes. So I could pull in these 90-degree domes right here, and I could size them to the size of all of the cue balls, right? I could do that. But I'm not, and I could carve my stripes and my numbers in and everything like that, but I'm not going to really be able to build too much on top of that. Now, I could, not only with the 90-degree dome for the main balls, but with the flat dome, it's kind of a we'll do the flat right here. This flat round in the clip art. This is the clip art that Desktop Pro and, Aspire have. That could be my upper circles, and then I could VCarve the numbers right into them. So I could at least get that rounded edge and everything. So if I were doing that, basically I would drag the dome into the project, and then the circles here, just so you know, they are 1.4754 inches in diameter. So on my dome, I could go ahead and resize that to 1.4754. Click apply. I could hold down my shift key and select the vector and use the alignment tool to align to the center of that vector to get it centered. Okay. So that would be, if we were to look at the 3D view, I could use that dome to build that just like that, right? And then the center circle here, which has a diameter of 0.6594, I could take my flat clip art from domes and dishes, this flat round circle, 0.6455. Let me drag this onto the board. Resize it .6455. Select the, wait for it. There we go. hold down the shift key, select that vector, and align to the center of that vector using the alignment tool to get that there. And that currently right now, that component that I just did is the flat circle is a merge, right? So on that, I could make it, I could change the combine mode to an add. So it sits on top, just like what we saw with when we were building the models and everything. I could build that dome. And then from there, my number, so if I select my number here and I do a VCarve toolpath, on the VCarve toolpath, you can let it go to the full depth. You can flatten it out. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to use a 60-degree V-bit. And then I want to make sure that I check off the box to project model or project toolpath onto 3D model. So that way it'll have the model follow the curve. My end mill does not need to be there. So that's what the software was telling me. And so if I were to carve this out and everything, that number one, which right now I'm on a flat board here, I don't have it carved out, but it would carve in that circle, right? So, and it's not going to look right when I preview this, but it would carve inside that circle on that dome and all. So that's how with Vectric VCarve Desktop and Pro, if I wanted to build those round balls, I would do exactly that for every single one of those. And on as far as the stripes are concerned, it would be a kind of almost like a pocket toolpath, but projected onto the model, so it removes that little bit of material off there. So that's how I would handle the round balls. But now the rest of everything. So let's take a look here at what we've got. So we have a frame, a wooden block right now that's 1.5 inches thick. We got a wooden blank on our table. I need the center area to be carved in, and I need the letters and everything to be raised up. And I need the banners and stuff. I need them to be raised up as well, right? So in the case of this, my slab, if I go into my slate here, and I select the vector for that. So select that vector. That vector for the slate kind of gives me my inside frame, but it doesn't. If I were to use that vector right now with all the other vectors and everything, it would cut off the bumpers. So it would remove the wood where those bumpers are supposed to be. So what I need to do is I need to create a vector that kind of combines the bumpers, those felt bumpers, and the slate layout together to be my inside vector that I have to have selected so everything in the middle gets raised up. So I'm going to take my vectors and I'm going to hold down the shift key, select my bumpers here. I've already got the slate one selected. So go around the table, select this and this. Okay, I'm going to copy them to a new layer. And on this new layer, it's going to be, I'm going to call this my inner trimmed boundary. And I want it to be active and I want it to be visible. I'm going to click on that. And then I only want to see this vector. So I could just show only this, right? So I'm only seeing this here. And then on this, basically, it's just a matter of trimming. And I'm not going to weld it together because if I weld it, it'll weld this vector back here. And I need to weld it up to this line. So I'm going to use my scissors. And it's just going to be a trim to create. So just trimming those straight lines in that background area. So this gives me the vector for that inner area. for that carve. So this is the vector that I would want selected when I am, let's turn on the other vectors. So let's go to the vector layers, turn them all on again. And that boundary, I want to select that vector for sure. But now if I selected that and let's say the word billiards and the flourish, let's get everything selected. Oh, no comments. Man, I really hope I didn't upset Brooks by asking him those questions. Brooks, you still with me? He hadn't commented yet. Usually he's good about that. All right, let's see here. Now, here, I don't think I'm going to be able to get that over under look unless I trim the vectors, because I need it to make it look like when I'm doing a VCarve, I need it to make it look like that this is laying over this, right? Now I'm not going to get the two steps too much and all. It's going to kind of be, you know, more of a flat. This will be raised, but it won't be the double layer raised. But I need it to look like one vector is over the other. So let me take and let me select everything that I want to select. For all the raised stuff. So this and this, that'll be raised up. That'll be raised up. Ocala, Florida will be raised up. Come on now. This banner is going to be raised, and I'll keep, I'll end up probably doing the dome on that. But where these domes are and everything, I need that wood to stay there, right? I can't have it getting milled away. So I need to select all of the billiard vectors, just the outside. I don't need the numbers or any of that stuff. All I'm doing is I'm creating a boundary that when I do the VCarve pocket and it carves around all of this stuff, it doesn't carve the wood away in these areas. Okay. All right, so that's going to all be raised. That's going to be raised. That'll be carved inside. That'll be carved inside. The pool cue. Now the pool cue, I'm just going to do just the main vector there for a moment. All right, that doesn't need to be selected. That doesn't mean none of the text that's inside these ribbons, because they're going to be raised up, needs to be selected. Jonathan's needs to be selected. Okay, so now with those vectors selected, I should be able to go in and create a VCarve toolpath. And it's going to have a flat depth. So this is how tall I want my letters and stuff to be. And let's say I really, I like my letters being like 1/8 of an inch, but I need my balls to be a certain height too, right? So I need that pocket to be deep enough that I'll be able to still have that, you know, that ball set to a certain height. So it still has that dome shape and everything. And I'm going to hit G for group really quickly. Oops. G for group. And that way I don't have to go through and select again like that. But on this dome, this ball here, this dome dish, it has a height of 0.73 right now. So that would mean that my pocket needs to be carved, you know, 0.73 inches deep, unless I scale down the ball, which is going to kind of flatten it out. Again, it really comes down to what you want it to be. if I want it to have that full domed look, then this whole area in here has to be cut down to 0.73. It's 1.5 inches thick, and that's fine to do that. But I'm going to be milling off the tops of all the letters and everything to bring them down to a certain height. So then there's a bunch of additional vectors that I'm going to need to create as boundaries and stuff for those letters to just kind of make sure that it doesn't get milled away. So what I'm going to do for right now is I'm going to kind of split the difference for myself. I'm going to go just a 1/2 inch deep, 0.5, and I'm going to select the vectors. I'm going to use an 1/8 inch end mill. I'm also going to use a 1/4 inch end mill because this is a big area too. I could use a 1/2 inch also, but 1/4 inch end mill, we'll use that. I want to raster back and forth with the grain, 60-degree V-bit, and I do not want to project on the 3D model because in this scenario, there is no 3D model. So let's go ahead and calculate this toolpath. I've got some vectors overlapping, so it might ignore where the break room is, where those two vectors overlap, and it's definitely going to, it's going to affect how the center area acts and everything. So I'm going to preview that visible toolpath just to see where I'm at. And I got the number 1 carved in there. I should have reset the preview, but okay, that's no big deal. Okay, now in here, so let me show you what's going on here with the down below. Let's get turned around here and zoom out. So right here, because the vectors overlap here and everything, because the vectors overlap and all, it ignored this vector. And that's why we have a big gaping hole right here. It ignored that vector completely. Now, by going so deep and everything, and mind you, most of this wood is going to get milled away when things get brought down and all, but by going this deep, it really creates a real steep thing. So here's what if I was carving this to hang on my wall, here's what it would look like. It would not be a 1/2 inch deep. It would only be an 1/8 of an inch deep because I think an 1/8 of an inch deep looks sharp as shit with a 60-degree V-bit in a pocket on anything. That's just my opinion. Second thing is I need to take these vectors and I need to copy them because I don't want to screw up the originals because I don't have to rebuild these things while I'm fixing y'all's model for your files tonight. But I want to copy these to a new layer. And I'm just going to call this my class vectors for VCarve. So I know that I can work with them and trim and stuff. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm only going to show those vectors. So show only this. Okay. And now in here, I can go in and create my trimming. I can go in and do my trimming. So I'm going to ungroup everything on this layer, make sure this layer is active. Okay, I'm going to right click and ungroup. All right, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim up to combine these vectors that need to be combined. Now on this, I'm not going to use my scissors to trim. You'll see how I'll do that one in just a moment. Not going to do my scissors there, but let me see if there's anything else that's overlapping that needs to be trimmed. Oops. Together. Nope, no overlap there. Okay, so now on this is going to be my boundary. This is going to be my vector. So I'm going to select this and this. I'm going to do them both at the same time. G for group. That'll be my boundary. This will be the vector that I'm trimming. Okay, and you select your boundary last, always last. And I'm going to use the trim tool, not the scissors. So I'm going to clear inside the boundary, the object I selected last. And what that's going to do is it's going to redraw this vector around that flourish, and it'll give that illusion that that flourish is in front of that vector. right? So now there's no overlaps or intersections or anything like that that's going to cause me any problems at all. But my lines are touching, so I am going to get a warning. If I were to calculate this toolpath right now, I'd get a warning about overlapping vectors and everything, because one vital step that I need to do, let me stop that. One vital step that I need to do before the actual trim, let me hit undo, Control Z, is I need to do an offset. So on my boundary here, I'm going to offset it outward just about maybe thousandths or 10 thousandths or 20 thousandths of an inch. So we'll go 10 thousandths, 0.01 outward. Okay. Now that vector, that outward bound vector on both of these, that's going to be my boundary. So I'll group those together. That'll be my boundary. So when I select this first, select the outside boundary last, and I trim using the trim tool, clearing inside that boundary, when it redraws to that boundary, and then I can delete that boundary, and I have that 10 thousandths of an inch clearance, so I don't have those overlapping lines. Okay, I get that illusion that the vector is, that swirl is on top of this vector here, but I don't have overlapping lines and everything. So now with everything done here, this would be selected. It would be a VCarve toolpath. Everything would be the same, but again, 1/8 of an inch deep, I think looks really sharp. I'm not going to do the round balls. No, I just want it to look like balls, right? So I'm going to calculate that toolpath. Let me go to the vector validator and just see where the overlaps are on this. Oh, the cube, and right there. So that's fine. Hold on a second. Let me fix that really quickly, because this is a VCarve version. I don't need those two vectors to be separated. So these actually get trimmed together. They'll get rejoined back together the way they were originally. Oh, ungroup. It won't trim a grouped vector. Okay, there we go. And here, I just need this cube to be. I need this cube to be 1 cube or whatever that is. 5-sided. I'll draw the vector back in there for the line for my single bit V bit. Here I'll do the same thing. Let me put this back here. Put that back there. Put that back there. Take my scissors and trim that up. All right, now once again, let's go ahead and select all the vectors, calculate this toolpath. Okay, reset the preview the visible toolpath. Damn, I'm really upset that Brooks hasn't replied to me yet. Brooks, are you still there? I think he might have left. I don't think he might have got upset with me. Let's go here. All right, so far that's where we're at. Let's turn the color off. If it was gonna be any color, right, it would probably be kind of like a felt green or something. Maybe not that kind of green. Maybe like a hunter type green, and then we go in there. But that would be, so far that's where we would be at. And then the next vectors, let's turn them all on again. The next vectors would be the rack them up. Those are going to get VCarved in to that pedestal and then the numbers and everything. So here, if I were to select the circle and the numbers, skip, carve, skip, carve around, skip, carve, skip. Yeah, I should be able to just select all. All of this. Now, on the stripes, notice they're overlapping those edges too and everything, but that's okay. I'm kind of creating a pocket cut. I probably want to, so the pocket did clean the edge up, so I don't have a little bit of material left here. I'd probably want these vectors to be just right past. So I'd go into node editing and make them go right past that. So what I might do is, let me do that on the stripes. So I'm turning the stripes off for right now. I'm going to hit group on everything else. I don't have to sit there and select everything individually again. Let me hit group. All right. Oh, there's a model in there too. Yep. Okay. Now on the stripes, what I'm referring to is in node editing. If I select these nodes and I just go a little bit past the edge, select these nodes, and I'm using the arrow keys on the keyboard, and I'm literally just bumping them. Make sure I'm not running into any of the other balls or anything, but I'm literally selecting those vectors. Now on this one, it's kind of a diagonal move. So just a bump to the up and a bump to the side. Oops. Got them all. That's going to be a bump down and a bump to the side. This one here, again, I'm just drawing a box from left to right so I can cross over these other vectors, but it's only selecting what I'm 100% in. And again, it's just a simple click of the arrow button just to get past the line so I don't get no warnings of overlaps. And the bit can go past the edge slightly and clean up that edge, right? That's all. That's the only goal that's our goal. So a couple more. Bump up. Bump down. I'm using the arrow keys on the keyboard. This one is left to right. Oops. All right, that one is grouped together, so I need to click yes to ungroup it. There we go. There we go. Bump that to the right. Bump that to the left. That was in part of my group with all my numbers and circles and everything. So, oh, well. And again, I'm using the up arrow key to bump like down and then back. You know, I want to keep, make sure things stay straight. Okay, so on all the stripes, I'm just going over the edges ever so slightly. I can get out of node editing mode now. So we're good to go there. I can go ahead and reselect everything. And then I can turn off the model. That can't be selected. That can't be selected. And then turn off the balls on the outside edge, right? So I only want just the stripes and everything. So black lines, black lines. Nothing is selected that's not supposed to be. All right, so that would be a VCarve toolpath also. And it's going to, the VCarve is going to carve in this area, skip the center area, so that'll be raised up slightly, and then it's going to carve the numbers, right? So carve, skip, carve. Okay, and then here, this is going to carve and skip, right? So now I'm going to have some numbers that are raised, some that are cut in, and that's a no-no. I don't want that. So I'm going to turn off the stripes for just a second. And on the depth, I don't want to go 1/8 of an inch deep. That's too much. So I'm going to go a 1/16, maybe a 32nd, but let's go a 1/16. I don't need an end. I don't need a 1/4 inch end mill, definitely for that. 1/8 inch might fit in there, but I doubt it. Let's find out. It probably does. Let's calculate. Okay, so right here we had 2 vectors that were not selected properly. Let's go back into that toolpath really quickly. Go back to my right here. And it wasn't that they weren't selected correctly. It was that there were vectors selected that shouldn't be. All right, let's recalculate that. Okay, perfect. Preview the visible toolpath. Okay, so that gives me that. And then now the stripes, I only need the stripes. And on the circle, I need that circle to have where on the stripes where the circle is. I need a second vector, because if I select the stripe in the circle, all it's going to do is it's going to stop up to here, and I've already got a V cut right there, right? So it would just leave a little splinter of a piece of wood. So I need to offset outward. Let's go a 32nd, 03125. And I'm good with that. So we'll do all the rest of all the ones with the stripes. So I can do them all at one time. Select, hold the shift key, select that one, that one, that one, that, and that. Offset outward the same distance. Now I'm going to hit undo, and I'm going to make sure I hit select new on there, because when I offset, I want it to select those new vectors that it just created, because now I can hold down my shift key, just add that to it, and then the stripes, and then I can go right into the toolpath. Okay, now on this, again, VCarve toolpath with a flat depth. The flat depth could be however deep you want. 1/16 of an inch is what I'll go for. That's fine. Might be a little much, but we'll go ahead and calculate that. Preview the visible toolpath. Okay. And so now let's turn the color off. Now, on here, I am optical delusion. Yeah, that's fine. That's exactly what I want. But a 1/16 is way too much. So I'm just going to cut that in half. We're going to do it to a 32nd, 03125. Calculate. On my preview, I'm going to hit undo last, so it puts that material back, and then I'm going to preview that visible toolpath again. So I'll have that. Now, of course, that's where paint comes in. Now I would paint my stripes and paint this and paint that and everything, and we would have that, look. And again, for me, I like 1/8 of an inch, but you can go as deep as you want. This could be a deeper. But remember, the deeper you go, the wider the angle gets, unless you use a narrower angle V-bit. And I want everything to look clean and slick. So if I was going to go deeper, I would use a 22-degree V-bit instead of a 60, because I want that narrow edge and everything. Let's add our text in here. So break room is going to be V-carved in, and so is this. Rack them up is going to be V-carved in, so I'll have some depth and definition. Again, it's going to be a V-carve toolpath. I'm not going to set a flat depth on this one, just straight up V-carve. And if that's the case, I'm going to turn off that number 8. That'll be a separate toolpath. So V-carve toolpath, 60-degree V-bit, calculate. Preview that visible toolpath. Okay, and then on the 8, I do want a flat depth because I don't want it carving too deep. So it's going to be a V-carve toolpath, and I'm just going to go a 1/16 of an inch. Calculate. And again, depth and all that stuff, you can figure out what you want. Now, the frame and everything. So on the frame here, these areas are higher than the rail areas. That's the flourish areas and all. So they kind of step down. So we're going to call these flourishes the highest part of our model, or our frame, our wooden block. So they're going to be kind of the main surface. We have a pocket, an area that's going to get pocketed out here down a level. And then, so all of the corners, we're going to select inside vectors 2. And you can do this as a V-carve, or it could be done as a pocket cut. I want a little bit of an angle, so I'm going to do it as a V-carve. I'm going to leave the centers alone for right now, just the 4 corners. This is going to be a V-carve toolpath. I'm going to go down 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to give that a little bit of rise. Hold on a second. The lower I go here, the lower I got to go in the middle, right? So it's important. So yes, just got to remember that. All right, so I started in the middle. I should have started on the outside and worked myself in, but that's okay. So we're going to calculate that toolpath. The V-bit was too big, or the end mill was too big to get into those small areas. Let's do a profile. My entire profile. So I'm going to select all of these vectors, all of these vectors, all of these. And again, I'm recreating them. I'm copying them to another layer, so I'm not destroying my originals. So copy to a new layer. It's 10:04. We got to get moving. New layer. This is going to be my outer boundary. All these vectors are selected just for one thing. We're going to delete what we don't need, keep what we do. Outer boundary. And I'll make that red for right now. Let's click OK. Let's show only that. Show only this. And on this, the only thing I need for the boundary to trim is this vector here. This vector here, this one, that and that, that, here, here, and here. But it was just easier for me to copy them all over to this layer, keep what I want, delete what I don't. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit weld to weld that together into one vector. That's my boundary. And then all of the rest, hold down the shift key, turn off that boundary of vector. Bear with me just a second here. Oh. Oh. Everybody is going for fight. Delete that. Wouldn't that be funny if I get copyright stricken on everybody's going to fighting because I'm singing it? All right, let's see here. Let's select that. Okay, when I welded, not the outcome I was looking for. Let me get rid of that circle for a minute. Let me get rid of this circle. Let me get rid of these two vectors. Okay. So when welded, it welded the one side correctly, but the other side it didn't, and it kind of created this inner vector too. So a little bit of node editing. And on this, I'm just going to generate a bit of an overlap, right? And then use my scissors to trim that together, right? Because all I care about is this outside boundary here. And here, node editing, pull that up, pull that in, again, just so I can take my scissors and trim that away. Let's get rid of this, don't need that. Here, node editing, and letter N on your keyboard is the shortcut for node editing. So you don't have to keep going back and hitting the buttons and everything over here. N on the keyboard is node editing. Again, just generating that overlap so that the scissors can come in and cut. And then on here, the inside vector is not needed and not needed. This is my outside boundary, right? So this would be on my outside boundary, it would be a profile cut, cutting all the way through my material, Z equals 1.5 inches, 1/4 inch end mill on the outside of the line. And this would be my outer profile. I'm kind of jumping ahead. Calculate. Preview that visible toolpath. And the reason why I'm previewing that visible toolpath is I want to get rid of the kind of the waist area so we can see what we've got going on here. Now, we're actually going to be creating the chamfer in just a second. We're going to be creating the chamfer on those foam cushions. We want that little bit of an angle in and everything. We're going to be creating that kind of chamfer down. But we're only going to need kind of one line when that time comes instead of an entire vector. So we'll fix that in just a minute. But so the outside boundary's been cut. Now this area has been removed right here down. So if we look at the 3D view, that area has been removed. And let me turn the color off. That area has been removed. Now I want to also clean up the outside here. So on that VCarve, the vector that I selected for that needs to go out a little bit further. So I don't have that. I want it to be nice and flat. These inside vectors, that material is going to get pocketed out. So let's start with just kind of that. Let's get, and I probably should have done this as a pocket, not a VCarve, because there's an angle to it. So let me select I should have a layer for the pocket hole vectors. Select those. Okay. I'm already down 1/8 of an inch here. I'm going to be down even further. I'm down 1/8 of an inch here. So I need to be, you know, I got to start adding things up now. So on this, I'm just going to go 3/8 of an inch deep for right now. I'll go over deep. I need to go after that, but I'm just going to go 3/8 of an inch deep. It's going to be a pocket cut, 0.375. And then once I get all the toolpaths created, then I'll start adjusting the depths to get everything looking the way I want, because there's going to be one vector, which I probably should have kept that inside vector. That whole inside vector is going to get pocketed over and milled down before the raised vector gets carved. So we'll go back to that in just a second. So here, pocket cut, 1/4 inch end mill, calculate, preview the visible toolpath. And here, that lip right there, and this lip is because of the VCarve. I'm going to fix that on this end. I'll fix that by just doing it as changing it to a pocket toolpath. But here, the only way to change that is to make my pocket hole vector just slightly bigger so that it cleans up this edge, because that's where the two edges converge between this pocket and this pocket, right? Or if I were, you know, enthusiastic, I could take a chisel and clean it up, right? I'm not going to do that. I'd much rather the CNC do it. So on my pocket vectors again, so I don't change them, I'm going to copy them to a new layer. New pockets. For VCarve. Show only this. And then we got to get going here, select these vectors, and then show only this. All right, what I literally need to do, it's not too bad of a thing, but in node editing on this vector here, let me come here on node editing. I literally just need to select here, here, and kind of, you know, this line too. But I need to just move it out and down, right? Out and down. So I could use my arrow keys on my keyboard and kind of bump back and forth and that stuff and all, but it's going to be, let me undo that. It's going to be easier if I take a line, if I take the time to draw a line from this center point to this center point and then beyond. Okay. Not too far beyond. But now when I go into node editing mode and I select these points again, I can just drag this along this vector so it stays intact and it goes in the direction that I need, right? And I could even type in a number, like if I wanted to go 1/8 inch out, I could type in, you know, 0.125 and it'll move to that 1/8 of an inch from where it was, right? So what my goal is if I were to recreate that pocket toolpath again on the new vector, let's say just for here, right? If I were to create that pocket toolpath again, and everything, it's going to open my pocket up a little bit more, but it's going to give me that clean finish, right? So I don't want to open my pocket. I don't want to extend my pocket too long, but I do need to get past that middle point, that joining, that meeting area and everything there. And I would, you can see that where the pockets combine versus where the main pocket that I carved for all this raised stuff, we have that little bit of material. So every single one of these would be done the exact same way. Now, because I am lazy, why draw what you can copy in a sense? This pool table is centered on my material, so I can go into the mirror tool, create a mirrored copy, flip it about the job center. I can flip it horizontally, I could flip it vertically, and I could flip it horizontally again, and that creates at least those vectors. That gets them done. right? So I have those longer vectors I can use for that pocket toolpath. Now, as far as my two side vectors here, simply literally just take my line, bring that line straight down again, just a little bit past, space bar, come into here, go into node editing mode and select those 3 points, including this one. Drag that out ever so, I'll just go 0.125. And then in my mirror tool, I can just flip that vertically, right? So it comes up, ends up over here. All right, so now in that pocket toolpath, I should be able to, oops, hold on. Undo. In my node editing, hold on a second. When I mirror this, it's important when I flip it about the top center that I have to create a mirror copy, flip vertically. There we go. All right. Now this one doesn't look like it's the new pocket, but it is because that's the one I altered. I didn't delete this other one. All right, so we're going to select that, and then all the longer ones on these all the way around. And on that pocket toolpath, that same depth and everything, same bit, same this, same that, it's just going to get calculated. And then what we should see, if I went out far enough on the sides, is it should clean up all of those corners. And let me see if okay, on that one, I didn't go quite far enough. Am I looking at the wrong toolpath there? Reset the preview. Oh, bummer. That was supposed to be a preview or undo last, not reset the preview. All right, hold on a second. Let me go through and all right, preview the visible toolpath. Okay. And so not a single vector was selected on this pocket toolpath, but this one right here. When I held the shift key down, I don't know if I was holding the control key and not the shift, but when it calculated, it only calculated for that one. Preview that visible toolpath. That should be my cleanup on all those. There we go. Okay. So now we have that nice smooth transition. And again, depths are going to play a role. Depths are going to play a role when we'll go back and change all the depths, when everything is all said and done to get the look that we want. But this is the progression, and we're coming relatively close to. But this is the progression where we would be at, how we're going forward. Now, the one thing I will change is here, that pocket cut, not a V cut. So that was this toolpath right. Turn on toolpath visibility. Okay. So on here, this VCarve 8, which were these corner cuts here and all, instead of a VCarve cutting down 1/8 of an inch, it should have been a pocket cut cutting down 1/8 of an inch. And truthfully, these vectors, which are currently turned off right now, let me go turn them back on. they should, these corner vectors, not the inside, but just the outside, these orange corner vectors, they should have been copied to another layer. So let me go to my corner accents, inner corner accents, select all the vectors. This is where layers really helps, trying to select layers that are underneath other layers and all that. If you have them separated, you can just go there and tell it, hey, select those vectors for me. Lifesaver, game changer. It would have been a nightmare otherwise. Copy to a new layer. This will be the last kind of little hoorah here. This will be my corner accents for VCarve. And on that, show only this. And on here, let me turn off the toolpath that's checked. On here, these outside arcs should be brought out a little bit further. So if I turn on the vector for that outer boundary, this one here, this corner boundary just needs to go past it a little bit so it cleans it up. And we don't have, again, a little bit of fuzz or whatever right here. So node editing on this vector, node editing, and we, again, we can use our line to help us or what have you, but I'm just going to select this, and that. I'm going to pull that out. That was wrong. Undo. Just this, and this, not the corner ones. I'm going to pull that out ever so slightly. I don't, this one goes straight out, so I'll use the right arrow key. I don't care. I don't need it that far out past and everything. And this vector is, it's a pocket cut. So it's cutting this down. So it doesn't have to be perfect because this is all the outside edge is getting cut away anyway. And this inside is getting cut down anyway. So I just got to bump past that line right now. Once I kind of get one, laid out and everything, then let me borrow this and this. Again, just to get past that edge right there. So as long as I'm past each edge, one more. As long as I'm past each edge, then that, it'll clean up. So this can get, again, mirrored. Get out of node editing. Mirror tool. Flip horizontally, flip vertically, flip horizontally. And we should be all four. All right, now, on that toolpath, we won't use the 8. So this VCarve 8 toolpath gets deleted. Delete that and the 8 VCarve, delete that. And we use the inside vector and this outside. It looks a little rough, but don't worry. That's what the profile cutout does. All we're doing is we're creating room between the bit to carve between these two vectors here. So those two vectors, this and that, this and that. Make sure it's the most outside one. This and that. Pocket cut 1/8 of an inch deep using an 1/8 inch end mill. When we calculate that, that will create the flat. So let's at least look at that for right now. Preview the visible toolpath. We have our outside profile cut, and then when that reset cut gets cut down, it's going to cut here. Now we haven't done the middle yet. So if I go back and I select that inside cut, so all of these, click, 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 there and there. Preview the visible toolpath to bring that down and everything. That brings all of this down and stuff. And then the ledges right here, where you see it step back up to here, that's our sides. So they get the vectors for those get milled down also. So once again, I've went down 1/8 of an inch here. I'm going to be taking the sides down 1/8 of an inch. So that means my whole center has to go down, you know, at least another 1/8 of an inch, right? So I started with the center first, but I have to go back and adjust all the levels and everything. And that's what we're doing, ladies and gentlemen. So when it's all said and done, the last thing that I'm going to show you for tonight, it should end this last 3 minutes. We should end it right here, is just that chamfer. So on all of the cushion rails, those green, so let me find my green here. The felt vectors, select all of them. They get copied to a new layer. This will be my chamfer felt 4B. I'll clean everything up as far as the text and the typing and all that stuff, but show only this. These vectors here, when we're creating the chamfer using the chamfer toolpath, we only need one line. So on that chamfer toolpath, if I have all the way around selected like this, then it's going to try to chamfer all the edges, and I don't need that. I need it to chamfer from this highest point here down to this point. So I only need this vector, this outside vector, to be selected on the whole perimeter all the way around. So let me close the chamfer tool, and basically in node editing, we can either go through and delete the span separating the two lines, or you can go through and delete all the points except for, you know, those lines. So I'm just going to go through and use my mouse and delete the span. Put your mouse right in here, delete the span. I don't care about anything below because all I care about is this upper line. All the inside lines are going to get deleted, but I'm not going to really delete them. I want to use them for reference. Delete the span. Delete the span, delete the span. A couple more, and then we'll call it a day. All right, now on here, I need to, when I'm choosing, let's get out of node editing mode. When I'm choosing these outside vectors and on, I'm in that chamfer toolpath, right? You see depending on my depth and everything, my start depth and how deep I'm going and the angle and everything, the arrows indicate where I'm starting, and the point of the arrow indicates the deepest part of the cut. So I need the arrows actually to be pointing towards this line. I don't need to be carving way out here down to this line. This is where I'm starting from. It's going to be flat there, and then it's going to come down. So that's going to be an inside cut, okay? But you see my arrowheads are still pointing towards that line, meaning that's the deepest cut, and I need the deepest cut to be facing this way. So that's going to be a slope downward. So I'm starting on the inside of this line, sloping downward. Inside cut downward. I need the tip of my, or the start of my arrows where it's going to be kind of at the highest point, and the point points towards the deepest part of that chamfer. Now I need the chamfer lines to reach this width here. Now it's all going to really be based on the V bit and the things I use. And if the V bit kind of dictates my chamfer width and height and things like that, my width is going to determine my height and all that, to reach that level and all. Unless I use like a ball nose bit, that'll be like almost kind of like a 3D model cut in the chamfer toolpath where it mills the ball down. So what I want to do is I'm going to just quickly remind myself, let me close this tool here. If I select both of these vectors, I can look at how wide this gap is, and it's 0.8389. I'm looking at the numbers at the bottom of the screen. If I wanted to, I could use my measurement tool, and I could measure horizontally as well too if I need to see those numbers on the screen. But 0.84, but technically it is, if I go 4 decimals, oops, come on, pop back up. If I go 4 decimals, it's that 8389, right? So when I'm selecting those numbers, I see those numbers at the bottom of the screen. And that's how far I want my chamfer to go. No more, no less. 8389. That's where I want to go. The size of my vectors, the space of my vectors. So once again, let me get rid of these numbers. 8389 is my magic number. All right, chamfer toolpath. Inside cut sloping downward. I want the cut width to be 0.8389. And that, if I want it to go that width, based on the V bit that I'm using, the depth of cut is, it's kind of dictating how deep I need to cut for that. Now, I'm going to change this up. First, I'm going to try a 120 degree V bit. And that, that cut depth is only a 1/2 inch deep, right? So not bad. Now my start depth, again, I've already stepped down 1/8. I'm going to step down another 1/8. So my start depth from the top of my board is going to be 1/4 inch. And so I'm starting at 1/4 inch, going another 0.48, another 1/2 inch, right? That's 3/4 inch down. So that means that my center area has to be at least deeper than 3/4 inch, right? That kind of thing, if I wanted to go that route. Now, if I chose a non-V bit, such as a 1/4 inch ball nose for the tool, now I can specify a width and a height. So I could say, I want to go 0.8389, but I only want to go down, let's say 1/4 inch, 0.25. Now, based on my angle, it's kind of dictating, it's changing things, right? So let me do that for a minute. And 1/4 inch, 0.8389. If I don't specify my angle, because I'm using a ball nose, it's going to cut that chamfer based on my width. There's Brooks. Hey, man. All right. I see people popping up now. Brooks, sorry, I didn't know if you were disappeared or if it just my chat wasn't catching up. Cool, man. All right. I see names popping up. Hey, Daryl, thanks, man. Thanks for the super chat. All this stuff is popping up now on my screen. Holy shoot. Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Daryl. A lot. Okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to get all excited, but everything just popped up. It was like a ticker tape. All right. So I don't specify an angle. The angle is going to be determined based on my width and how deep I want to go down, right? So that's going to determine my angle, width, and then I set the depth. So when I calculate this tool path, it's telling me that I must specify an angle. So that sucks. If I specify an angle, it's going to change my boxes. So let's find the right angle then. So 15 degrees. No. 90 degrees. Ooh. 1 degree. Whoa. 48 inches for a 1 degree angle? What? 90 degrees. Okay, I gotta think out loud here for a second. Angle with, I want to go 0.8389. That's a 4-inch deep cut. Oh, 179 degrees. 360 degrees. I'm confused now. Hold on a minute. 60 degrees. So 0.48. 45 degrees is 0.8389. Okay, I'm seeing what's happening here. So 30 degrees. That's too deep. 75 degrees. There we go. 75. I'm getting there. 0.22. 75, 74, 73. That's fine. 73 degrees gives me a 0.2565 cut. I'm okay with that. It's just finding that right angle, right? So you got to specify an angle. Isn't that crazy? All right, calculate that tool path. And then, you know, this is only just the one, but let's kind of come here. And what we are, you know, when we preview that visible tool path and everything, the, hold on a second. Reset that preview. Bear with me just a second. Preview that visible tool path. There is no angle there whatsoever. Now remember, I'm already starting at 0.25. Let me start at 0 for a second. Calculate. Reset the preview, preview the toolbar. The reason I'm starting at 0 so I can just see. Okay, there's an angle there. So let me see here. That'll be cut off by the end there. My mouse says that this C height is 0.1286. This C height is, and it goes down, so 0.1286, 0.131. And then it started chamfering back up because of the ball. So right here, this is all going to be gone. So right here at the end of my chamfer, I need to go deeper, at least 3/8 of an inch deep, because it's not enough of an angle to give me it. I want a little bit more of an angle. Right now, that's only giving me about a 1/16 of an inch drop and everything. So very quickly, let me go back in here. 2 things that need to occur. Number one is I need to go past this line a little bit. I can't stop right here because of the radius of my bit. The radius of my bit is causing it to carve down, but then it's curling right back up to the height because of the round radius of the bit. So my lines have to go past this line here by at least my bit's radius, right? So I'm using a 1/4 inch diameter ball nose, an 1/8 inch. So I need to go plus 0.125. Okay, so that's going to get me past that line. And then I want to go deeper. So let's change the angle. Let's go 3/8. So let's change the angle to 68 degrees. 60 degrees. Oh, you goofball. 0.8389 plus 0.125 equals. Okay, let me do this. You son of a gun. I hate when this tool does this to me. It's one or the other. So let me just get my depth right. 0.375. So we'll specify that first. Now, this box. Point. Why are you changing? 0.375. 0 degree angles. Now, if I put 0 degree in there, I should be able to change this without it screwing this one up. 0. There we go. 0.8389 plus 0.125 equals. Okay, now I've got those. Now, it won't let me go with just a straight 0 depth. So when I change this angle, it's going to change the cut depth. So I got to match that angle. So if you remember, 72 degrees, or, whatever it was, 75, 76, got me at 0.25. I'm going to go 3/8. So let's go 71, 69, 68. Okay, 69.5. 0.37. So that's as good as we get. So 69 degrees. Went a little bit past there. So when I calculate that tool path, reset the preview, and I preview that tool path, I should have what you're. Give me a second. What? I hate. Why is that doing that? What's the step down? What's the step down happening there? Hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. We got this. We're trying to finish this up, but what is that? Stupid. Let me make sure my start depth is at 0. Ball nose width, and I'm cutting down 3/8. I can see the step there, but it's supposed to be removing that material in a chamfered angle. Calculate. Preview the visible tool path. What in the heck am I seeing here? Why is it leveled like that? What is there a finish cut? Is there a finish cut? Vectric, fix your chamfer tool path. That is nowhere near an angle. Is it wanting me to sand or something? That's supposed to be an angle all the way down, a nice flat angle. I don't know where this step is occurring here. All right, we can't do that. Let me see if I got something screwed up here. Start at 0. Nope, hold on. Chamfer. Start at 0, 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. My pass depth, just for a second here, I want to see if I change that, if that does something. Calculate. No tool path generated for the current parameters. Check that the tool can fit. Okay, so it did not like the pass depth on that. Okay, I'm going to make my pass depth smaller. Give me just a second. Something is, there's too big of a step. Something is, I think the steps were too far apart. It's not creating a cohesive preview of the visible tool path. A nice smooth with that ball nose. It's not like a V-bit. There we go. Jeez. All right. Makes sense. I understand. the steps were too far apart. So it was stepping down the angle and everything. The steps have to be tighter. It's got to, just like a finish cut. It's just, you know, that 8% step over, you know, that we do for 3D model finishing. That's basically what it's creating. So they got to be tighter. So I still have ridge lines here. So I'm going to go a little bit tighter. I knew there was a reason, and just you have to think about stuff like that. How does this toolpath react? What does it do? What is it looking at? So, all right. So right now my 8% step over is 0.02. So I'm going to match that 0.02.
Everybody.
125 inches a minute. All right, calculate. All right, reset the preview and preview that visible toolpath. There we go. Okay, that's what I'm expecting to see. So, long story short, that's I went from 1/4 to 3/8, right? I went down another 1/8 to kind of get a little bit of depth and definition. So my right where it starts to curl back up, that's where the bumper ends. So that's going to be at that height. I'm at 0.3508 right there. So my inside pocket has to be down below that to get that kind of that chamfered look, you know, and everything on my bumpers. So we just have to, you know, we have to kind of build and work our way, and we work our way from the outside in and all. So that's, you know, that's kind of where we're at. So in this case, all of, and I need to make sure that the lines are all pointing in the correct way. That means that the start point is correct, right? So this start point is incorrect here. So on this node editing, I can make that the start point. That'll flip that. All right. Once again, select all these again. Now, I'll start at 0 here and everything for now, but that's going to be that chamfer on that. So tighter step over. If you're using a ball nose for a chamfered bit, the step over controls the smoothness of that cut because it doesn't have a single blade, you know, that V-bit blade and everything. So if I take, just for right now, for preview purposes only, and I take my inner boundary and turn that on, if I selected that boundary, and I calculated a toolpath, now it's going to be real tall, but let's just do it real quick. VCarve toolpath, start at 0, and I want a flat depth. I'm going to go 0.38, just 0.38 or 39, 0.4. I'll go 0.4 just for now. My letters are going to look really funky. They're going to be really wide. You know, those would actually get carved down further. But let's calculate this. And this isn't the proper vector. It's not the one that was trimmed and everything. It was the original, but at least it'll give us kind of a, give me kind of a preview here. Preview the visible toolpath. All that should be milled down. Okay. Now, of course, our pockets aren't cut out, or all of this stuff aren't cut out. The vector for that inside pocket needs the nodes on the vector need to be brought out a little bit further. That need to come back just a little bit more right to here. So there's not that transition. So it kind of cuts right into that chamfer and all. Maybe the chamfer doesn't need to be 3/8 of an inch deep, but that's kind of, that's how we're getting those levels, right? So that's what you're looking at. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 10:50. We're way over schedule, 3 hours and 20 minutes. What I will do is I will clean up all these vectors, get the layers and everything just right. I'll update our Google Drive photo folder, and it'll update your files. You can re-download them and everything. And then every layer, there'll be new layers added on. You'll be able to turn on and off the layers to see the layers for the corner recess that gets cut out, the profile cut that gets cut out, that there's going to be a big pocket cut that mills all of the inside down before these raised letters start. So we don't have these big flares at the bottom of them and everything. So the letters and all are only going to be 1/8 of an inch tall down in this pocket. You'll have all the layers and everything that you will be able to work with on your own. Everything will be nicely separated and color coded and what have you to work with. And that will, that will complete this up, because it's ridiculously too long now. But at least you're kind of seeing how the process is. I mean, look at all the toolpaths that we have over here to accomplish this. This is just for, the VCarve portion of it, to get this sign to look how we want, and that's not counting the outer profile, the cutout of the outer profile, and then the pocket, not that one, pocket 3 and pocket 2, preview those visible toolpaths. So those toolpaths that mill those down and everything to create that, that kind of, we're starting to go towards that final look, but we're not there yet. The sides haven't been milled down proper to the proper depth and all that stuff. All those vectors, all those toolpaths, they'll all be named. They won't say VCarve 7, 4, 6, 3, 2, 1. They'll have proper names and everything, so you know what you're looking at when you're looking at them. And all of that will be updated in the Google Drive folder for you. It'll take me a few hours to knock it out and get it done, and also, but hopefully you've got something out of tonight's class. You will have the model version of this minus Jonathan's name and Ocala, Florida. That will not be a component that will be in your file, unless you know somebody named Jonathan. But you'll put your own. If you have Aspire, you can build your own name and state and city or whatever, if you want that at all. If you have VCarve Pro, you'll create your own vectors, right? And it'll be that raised like you see right now. This is not a model at all. This is all VCarve using just a V-bit and an end mill, right? What you see on the screen, and a tapered ball nose for those chamfer. But so that's all VCarve and everything. So you can put whoever's name you want, whatever city and states you want, right? This vector down here below the word billiards is not correct. Remember, we trimmed that during the class. And all, but and then also the 8-ball was there and stuff like that too. So everything's going to get cleaned up for you and transferred over to that file. I'll put out a post in the community and in the Facebook group when that file is ready for download, and then you can play with it on your own. But you'll have all the names of your vectors and everything sorted, so you can look at what all is actually, even the components will have their proper name instead of model with 15-degree draft, model with 15-degree draft, model with, like 6 times in a row. They'll have all their proper names here in just a little while tonight. And I'll put out that post when it's all ready. All right, everybody. Well, listen, Daryl, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. Let me make sure I didn't miss anyone else's. And Brooks Martin, thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully you saw what I said. But the kitten's name is Tiger Lily. One, because a friend of mine's favorite flower was Lily, but her favorite flower was a stargazer lily, right? But I didn't want a cat named Stargazer. And the kitten looks like a tiger with his little stripes and all, so it was a Tiger Lily, right? So that's how little Miss Tiger Lily got her name, and she's about as vicious as it is for that. All right, everybody, let me say goodbye to Jim real quick. He's been hanging out. Jim, I'm going to bring you up with me, or JR. And let me get myself up tall. This has been a long, long night. And you can see what you can see what goes into projects like this when there's a lot of detail involved. and you're trying to do things that are out of the norm, like we're trying to make this look like, a pool table with VCarve toolpaths. We're trying to get our depths right and our chamfers and our angles and our depths. So there's a lot involved, a lot of vector recreation or vector manipulation and stuff. I'll have everything just tight and right for you. So you would be able to go through on your own and know exactly what's happening. You could turn layers on and off, and you'll be able to see what toolpath is associated with what layer and all that stuff. So all the toolpaths will be associated with layers and everything in your final file for you. But thanks, Linda. Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Rod. Appreciate that. Daryl, again, thanks for the super chat. Jen, long class, but a lot of information, huh?
Oh, yeah.
The thing I think about, like what I'm thinking about, if you remember when we were talking about the VCarve, how I talked about using the little domes or dishes to make the balls round, but then we got away from that during the VCarve process and all. Well, if I'm going that deep anyway, just because of the chamfer and all the outsides and everything like that, then hell, I'm gonna might as well. If I'm going that deep anyway, then I'm gonna probably use the domes over each of the little balls and stuff, so I can at least get round balls so they're not flat on the top. It's things like that I got to think about, but I also got to think about how much material I'm dealing with. So a lot of thought goes into something like this. So thanks for hanging out with me on this one and all. But hopefully you all get it. And what I'll do is, now that I said it out loud, I'll make sure that the balls have rounded, but also flats too, regular, so you can you'll be able to choose on that on your own. But everything will be there for you. So you can turn layers on, toolpaths on and off, and see what's what. All the toolpaths will be associated with a layer, meaning when you, calculate or recalculate a toolpath, it's going to calculate to whatever layer it's assigned to. I'll make sure all that's done in this file for y'all. And it will be one complete busy old file, but it will have a lot that you can learn from on your own. So there you go. Hey, JR, when we close out tonight's class, don't run off just right away. Stick with me for just a moment. And then I want to go over something with you real quick. And then, but we're going to say goodnight to the rest of the folks. So everybody, we'll see you later. Thanks for everything. Thanks for hanging out with me this late. I know it was a long one. Hey, Thursday night, tomorrow night, we're going to have at 8:00 p.m. We're going to have another free class, for the public and stuff. Don't know what the topic's going to be yet, but if you're around Thursday night, check it out. It'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Until next time, I'll see you soon. JR, hang out with me for a bit. Let me end this stream. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time.